The black forest of Cinderis stretched before Dr. Mara Kincaid like an ocean of shadow. Volcanic ash drifted through the air, settling on her reinforced exosuit as she stood at the edge of Hestia Outpost, humanity's lone foothold on this hostile world. She adjusted her neural scanner, watching its display flicker with electromagnetic readings from the valley beyond. "Another day in paradise," she muttered to herself. Through the observation window, Cinderis revealed its true nature, a landscape of smoke valleys and dormant volcanoes, perpetually wrapped in twilight. Even among the hundreds of charted planets in the Milky Way Alliance territories, this place had earned a special reputation. The locals at Hestia called it the Death Zone, a term Mara found both melodramatic and oddly fitting. "Dr. Kincaid, your atmospheric readings from yesterday are ready for transmission," called Lieutenant Novak from the communications hub. The young officer's face remained professionally neutral, but Mara caught the undercurrent of tension. "Alliance Command is requesting an update on your Dracoth research." Mara nodded without turning from the window. "Tell them I'll have a full report after today's excursion." "They've already prepared the condolence templates for your team," Novak said, his voice dropping. "Standard procedure." "How thoughtful." Mara's tone was dry as the Cinderis air itself. "Remind me to die dramatically so their paperwork isn't wasted." Her eyes fell on the holographic display showing the planet's most notorious inhabitant, the reason the Alliance of Milky Way territories had sent her, their top neuroecologist, to this forsaken corner of colonized space. The Dracoth. A blurry image captured by a drone showed a massive silhouette with what appeared to be multiple eyes glowing in the darkness. 3 previous expedition teams had vanished attempting to study the creature, earning it mythical status among the outpost crew. The year was 2347, and humanity had spread across dozens of worlds. Yet Cinderis remained one of the last unconquered frontiers, a stubborn holdout on the Alliance's Safety Classification Index. While other planets hosted thriving colonies with millions of settlers, Cinderis had only this, a reinforced research bunker clinging to the edge of the Black Forest, staffed by scientists and military personnel who counted the days until their rotation ended. Mara wasn't counting. She had requested this assignment specifically. "Dr. Kincaid?" A voice pulled her from her thoughts. Ortega, one of her research assistants, appeared in the doorway. "Klein and I have the transport prepped. We're scheduled to depart in 15 minutes. "I'll be right there," Mara replied, gathering her equipment. As she secured the neural scanner in its case, she paused to look at the data from yesterday's expedition, soil samples from the forest edge showing unusual biochemical activity, electromagnetic anomalies that defied standard categorization. Something was happening beneath the forest floor, something the Alliance instruments couldn't fully capture. She had come to Cinderis because of the rumors about the Dracoth, that it was not merely an apex predator, but something more, something intelligent, something that understood. As Mara walked through the corridor toward the airlock, she passed the memorial wall, small holographic displays commemorating the researchers who had disappeared on Cinderis. Their faces flickered with static, as if the planet itself was slowly erasing their memory. She was determined not to join them. The air-filtered transport hummed to life as Mara, Klein, and Ortega settled into their seats. Through the reinforced windows, the Black Forest waited, indifferent to their presence. Today, they would venture deeper than yesterday, following a path where drone surveillance had detected unusual thermal signatures. "Neurotransmitter patterns from yesterday's samples are unlike anything in the Alliance database," Klein remarked, reviewing data on his tablet. "Whatever lives in that forest doesn't process information like Earth-evolved species." "That's why we're here," Mara replied, "to understand what the machines can't." The transport glided over the ashen ground, leaving the safety of Hestia Outpost behind. In the distance, smoke valleys pulsed with volcanic activity, creating a landscape that seemed almost alive, breathing, shifting, watching. Mara felt it then, as she always did when they crossed the invisible boundary between the outpost and the wilderness. A strange awareness, like she was being observed by something beyond her understanding. The sensation had grown stronger with each expedition, a tingling at the base of her skull that the neural scanner couldn't explain. The first 10 days on Sindaris had been methodical and uneventful. Soil samples, atmospheric readings, thermal imaging of the forest perimeter, standard scientific procedure, gathering data that would be processed and analyzed back at Alliance headquarters. But with each passing day, Mara had felt increasingly dissatisfied with the clinical approach. The forest seemed to mock their careful measurements, harboring secrets that numbers and graphs couldn't capture. On the 11th day, everything changed. The transport settled in a small clearing at the forest edge, its landing struts sinking slightly into the ash-covered ground. Mara was the first to exit, her protective suit automatically adjusting to filter the toxic elements in the Sindaris atmosphere. "Stay within visual range," she instructed Klein and Ortega as they deployed their equipment. "We'll follow the thermal anomaly trail for 2 kilometers, then reassess." The forest loomed before them. Ancient trees twisted into impossible shapes by evolutionary forces, unlike anything on Earth. Their bark was black as obsidian, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Between them, phosphorescent fungi cast an eerie blue glow that barely illuminated the path ahead. Mara activated her neural scanner, watching as it struggled to interpret the bioelectric signatures emanating from deeper in the forest. The readings were chaotic, pulsing with patterns that almost resembled language. They had progressed nearly a kilometer when Ortega froze, raising a hand to signal the others to stop. "Movement," he whispered, pointing to a dense cluster of vegetation ahead. "Something large." Mara adjusted her scanner, focusing on the area. The bioelectric readings spiked dramatically, then vanished altogether, as if whatever was there had suddenly ceased to exist. "That's impossible," she muttered. "Nothing can mask its signature completely." The attack came without warning, silent and devastatingly fast. A semi-transparent form burst from the undergrowth, moving with fluid grace that defied its massive size. Mara caught only glimpses: iridescent scales, multiple limbs, eyes that glowed like molten copper. Klein screamed as the creature grabbed him, his voice cutting off abruptly as he vanished into the darkness. Ortega fired his pulse rifle, the energy blasts illuminating the forest in staccato bursts of blue light. For a moment, Mara saw the creature fully, larger than she had imagined, its body segmented and fluid. Those eyes, not 2 but 6, arranged in layers that seemed to perceive different spectrums of reality. "Run!" Ortega shouted, continuing to fire as he backed toward the transport. "Mara, run!" She hesitated, torn between scientific curiosity and survival instinct. The creature, the Dracoth, moved again, this time taking Ortega. There was no blood, no violence as portrayed in the Alliance briefings, just silent efficiency as her colleague disappeared. Mara ran, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The forest seemed to close in around her, branches reaching like grasping hands. She realized with horror that she was moving deeper into the woods, not toward the transport. The Sindaris atmosphere, toxic even through her protective suit, made each breath laborious. Something brushed against her consciousness, a presence, vast and alien, not hostile but curious, watching, waiting. The ground beneath her feet gave way suddenly, sending her tumbling down a steep embankment. Her equipment scattered, the neural scanner smashing against rock. Pain shot through her ankle as she landed, and darkness threatened the edges of her vision. Above her, silhouetted against the dim forest canopy, she thought she saw eyes watching, layer upon layer of copper-red irises. Then, unconsciousness claimed her. Mara awoke to darkness and the steady drip of condensation. Her suit's emergency systems had activated, providing breathable air and basic medical care to her injured ankle. According to the chronometer, nearly 12 hours had passed. She was alone in what appeared to be a natural cave formation, volcanic rock forming smooth walls that glistened with moisture. Her equipment was gone, but surprisingly, her personal communicator remained attached to her wrist, though its signal couldn't penetrate the dense rock surrounding her. For days, Mara navigated the labyrinthine cave system, following air currents that suggested a way out. Her suit's resources dwindled dangerously low. Twice, she encountered evidence of the Dracoth's presence, strange markings on the walls that resembled written language, and once, a shed scale that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. Her scientific mind remained active despite her desperate situation. The Dracoth had taken her colleagues but left her alive. It had removed her equipment but left her communicator. These were not the actions of a mindless predator. They suggested purpose, even communication. On the 5th day after the attack, Mara finally emerged from the caves, finding herself on the opposite side of the Black Forest. The familiar silhouette of Hestia Outpost was visible in the distance, across a stretch of smoke valley that would be treacherous to cross. Her communicator beeped suddenly, detecting a signal. A rescue team had been deployed. "Dr. Kincaid," a voice crackled through the static. "This is Vega from AMT Rescue. We've located your signal. Stay where you are." Within an hour, a transport appeared overhead, descending through the toxic atmosphere with expert precision. 2 figures in protective suits rushed to her side, Vega and Song, engineering specialists sent by the Alliance. "Where are Klein and Ortega?" Song asked, as they helped Mara aboard. "Taken," she replied simply, "by the Dracoth." Back at Hestia Outpost, Mara underwent medical treatment while the rescue team searched for her missing colleagues. They returned with only Klein's protective goggles and one of Ortega's boots, discovered at the attack site. No bodies, no blood, just absence. Lieutenant Novak coordinated the official report to Alliance Command. "They're classifying this as another Dracoth predation incident," he informed Mara. "The outpost will be placed on elevated alert status." "It wasn't predation," Mara insisted, despite her exhaustion. "There was something else happening. The Dracoth wasn't hunting us. It was examining us." Novak's expression remained skeptical. "Dr. Kincaid, with all due respect, you suffered significant trauma and oxygen deprivation. Command believes—" "I don't care what Command believes," Mara interrupted. "I'm going back out there." "That's impossible. After losing 2 more researchers, all expeditions are suspended pending a full safety review." Mara leaned forward, her voice low and intense. "Then I'll go without authorization. The Dracoth could have killed me a dozen times over. But it didn't. Don't you want to know why?" For the next few days, Mara analyzed what little data she had managed to preserve. The neural readings from before the attack showed patterns that resembled primitive language centers, suggesting intelligence far beyond what the Alliance had attributed to Sindaris wildlife. On day 16, after her arrival on Sindaris, the AMT rescue team conducted a more thorough survey of the attack site, using advanced scanning technology to search for traces of Klein and Ortega. They found nothing except a series of deep impressions in the forest floor, Dracoth footprints, leading deeper into uncharted territory. "Those tracks are fresh," Vega reported. "Whatever took your colleagues is still active in the area." Rather than deterring her, this information only strengthened Mara's resolve. If the Dracoth was still nearby, she had a chance to understand what had happened. Against Lieutenant Novak's explicit orders, Mara began preparations for another expedition. This time, however, she would rely on technology rather than physical presence. Working with Vega and Song, she modified a series of surveillance drones to penetrate deeper into the forest and the smoke valley beyond. "These are programmed to follow the Dracoth's neural signature," she explained, as they launched the first drone. If it's out there, we'll find it. For 3 days, the drones transmitted data back to Hestia Outpost. Most was corrupted or incomplete. Something in the Sindaris atmosphere interfered with their sensors. But on the 20th day, one drone captured something remarkable: a complex series of neural waves emanating from deep within the smoke valley. Patterns that resembled what humans would call keening, a sound of mourning or longing. "It's communicating," Mara whispered as she studied the readings. "Or trying to." The drone's visual feed showed only swirling toxic mist. But the neural scanner detected multiple signatures. Not just one Dracoth, but several, gathered in what appeared to be a social formation. That night, Mara made her decision. While the outpost slept, she donned her repaired protective suit, packed minimal supplies, and slipped past the security systems. Lieutenant Novak would be furious, but she couldn't wait for Alliance bureaucracy to approve another expedition. The answers she sought were waiting in the smoke valley. Dawn found her deep in the Black Forest, following the path the drones had mapped. The atmosphere was suffocating, ash particles drifting like snow in the dim light. Each step took her further from safety and deeper into the unknown. By midday, she reached the edge of the smoke valley. Before her stretched a landscape of swirling toxic mist, punctuated by jagged rock formations that rose like the spines of prehistoric beasts. Somewhere in that poisonous soup, the Dracoth waited. Mara activated her neural scanner, adjusting it to filter out background noise and focus on the specific patterns she had identified as Dracoth communication. Almost immediately, she detected a response, faint but unmistakable, a pulse of bioelectric energy that seemed to say, "I see you." She moved forward, each step deliberate on the treacherous ground. The scanner guided her through the worst of the toxic clouds, toward a massive rock formation that resembled a fallen cathedral. As she approached, the neural signals grew stronger, more complex. Then, she heard it. Not with her ears, but somehow in her mind. A soft keening sound, like a distant wind carrying voices too alien to comprehend. It raised the hairs on the back of her neck. The massive form of the Dracoth appeared suddenly before her, materializing from the toxic mist like a ghost. 6 layers of copper-red eyes regarded her with impossible intelligence. Its body, larger than any Earth predator, moved with liquid grace despite its size. Iridescent scales shifted color as it breathed, creating patterns that seemed almost like written language. Mara stood paralyzed, not with fear but with awe. The neural scanner in her hand went wild, recording patterns more complex than any brain activity she had ever witnessed. The Dracoth moved closer, its massive head lowering to her level. Those layered eyes blinked in sequence, creating a hypnotic effect that made Mara's vision swim. She felt consciousness slipping away, her mind unable to process the alien presence before her. As darkness claimed her last thought was not of fear, but of wonder. Back at Hestia Outpost, alarms blared as Mara's life signs fluctuated wildly. Lieutenant Novak ordered an immediate rescue operation, his face pale with anger and concern. "She's encountering the Dracoth," he informed the rescue team. "Her neural patterns are completely chaotic." Vega and Song prepared the fastest transport available, armed with pulse rifles and advanced scanning equipment. "We might already be too late," Song muttered as they launched into the toxic atmosphere. Following Mara's tracker signal, they reached the edge of the smoke valley in record time. The scanner showed her life signs stabilizing, but in proximity to a massive biological signature that could only be the Dracoth. "She's alive," Vega confirmed, adjusting the long-range imager. "But she's not alone." Through the thermal imaging system, they could see Mara's form, small and fragile against the massive bulk of the Dracoth. But what they witnessed next defied all expectations. The Dracoth hadn't attacked her. Instead, It had curled its enormous body around her prone form in what appeared to be a protective posture. And moving toward them from the mist was a smaller Dracoth, a juvenile, its proportions indicating it was young of the species. "It's not hunting," Song whispered in disbelief. "It's parenting." As they watched, Mara regained consciousness. Instead of panicking, she remained still, observing the juvenile Dracoth as it approached her cautiously. The larger adult maintained its protective stance, but made no aggressive moves. The juvenile reached Mara and, in a gesture that would redefine everything the Alliance thought they knew about Cinderis, curled against her body like a child seeking comfort from its mother. "Record everything," Vega ordered, his voice hushed with wonder. "Alliance Command needs to see this." Mara felt the weight of the juvenile Dracoth against her, its body temperature higher than she expected, radiating warmth through her protective suit. Its scales were softer than the adult's, almost translucent, revealing a complex nervous system beneath that pulsed with bioelectric energy. The adult Dracoth watched, its 6-layered eyes blinking in that strange, sequential pattern. Mara realized it was communicating, not with sounds or gestures, but through neural patterns that her scanner was barely sophisticated enough to detect. With slow, deliberate movements, Mara raised her hand and gently touched the juvenile's head. It responded by pressing closer, making a soft, trilling sound that vibrated through her chest. The adult Dracoth shifted slightly, adjusting its protective circle around them both. "You're not a monster," Mara whispered. "You're a mother." As if understanding her words, the adult Dracoth extended one limb, more delicate than its massive size would suggest, and lightly touched Mara's shoulder. The contact sent a surge of neural activity through her brain, images and sensations too alien to fully comprehend. But one message came through clearly: safe, protect. After what seemed like hours, but was perhaps only minutes, the adult Dracoth made a different sound, a low rumble that the juvenile immediately responded to. It reluctantly uncurled from Mara's side and moved toward its parent. Together, they retreated into the mist, toward what Mara now understood was a nest or den hidden among the rock formations. The rescue transport descended as soon as the Dracoth had disappeared, Vega and Song rushing to Mara's side with weapons drawn. "Are you hurt?" Song demanded, scanning her for injuries. Mara shook her head, her eyes still fixed on the spot where the Dracoth had vanished. "They weren't hunting us," she said quietly. "They were protecting their young. All this time, we've been intruders in their nursery." Over the next week, Mara compiled her findings into a comprehensive report for Alliance Command. Using the neural recordings and visual data captured by the rescue team, she presented evidence that the Dracoth were not mindless predators, but highly intelligent, social creatures with complex family structures. The disappearances of previous research teams weren't predation events, she explained during a holographic conference with Alliance officials. The Dracoth were removing perceived threats from their young. They didn't kill the researchers, they relocated them. "Are you suggesting that Klein and Ortega might still be alive?" Lieutenant Novak asked, his skepticism evident. "I'm saying it's possible," Mara replied. "The Dracoth demonstrated remarkable restraint. They could have killed me multiple times but chose not to. I believe they're capable of distinguishing between different types of threats." The evidence was compelling enough that Alliance Command authorized a new approach to Cinderis research. Hestia Outpost would be expanded into Hestia Station 2, a dedicated conservation and study facility focused on non-invasive observation of the Dracoth. Mara was appointed lead researcher, her experience with the creatures deemed invaluable. In the months that followed, Mara developed new protocols for interacting with the Dracoth. Using modified neural transmitters, she established rudimentary communication, not in words, but in emotional states and simple concepts that the creatures could understand. The juvenile Dracoth that had curled against her became a frequent visitor to the observation posts she established at the forest edge. Mara named it Echo, for the way its neural patterns seemed to reflect and amplify her own. Through patience and respect, she gradually mapped the Dracoth social structure, a complex matriarchal system centered around the protection and education of the young. The massive adult she had encountered was indeed Echo's mother, the dominant female of a small family group that inhabited the Smoke Valley. Most remarkably, 6 months after her initial encounter, Mara witnessed something no human had ever seen, a Dracoth birthing ritual, deep within the volcanic cave system where she had once been lost. The mother Dracoth had invited her, through neural signals that Mara had learned to interpret, to observe this sacred event. As new life emerged in that ancient darkness, Mara understood that she was no longer merely a scientist studying an alien species. She had become a bridge between worlds, a translator of consciousness between humanity and the Dracoth. On the anniversary of her arrival on Sindaris, Mara stood at the edge of the Smoke Valley, watching as Echo, now nearly half-grown, emerged from the mist to greet her. Behind it, the massive form of its mother appeared briefly, those 6-layered eyes blinking in the pattern Mara now recognized as acknowledgement. "We understand each other, don't we?" Mara said softly. In response, Echo curled its body around her legs, just as it had done that first day when everyone thought she was being hunted. Mara placed her hand on its head, feeling the complex neural patterns that connected them. Not predator and prey, not even alien and human, but two sentient beings sharing a moment of connection across the vast gulf of evolution. Behind them, Hestia Station 2 hummed with activity. Researchers and conservationists working to understand and protect the ecosystem of Sindaris. The planet remained harsh and dangerous, its atmosphere toxic, its landscape treacherous. But it was no longer classified as a death zone. It was, Mara knew, simply home, to the Dracoth, to herself, and to the possibility that understanding could transcend even the most fundamental differences. As Echo reluctantly returned to its mother, disappearing into the mist, Mara activated her neural recorder, capturing the parting thought the juvenile Dracoth sent her way. Return, safe family. 3 simple concepts that bridge the gap between species, planets, and evolutionary paths. 3 words that had transformed a story of predator and prey into something far more profound. A recognition that maternal love and the drive to protect one's young were perhaps universal constants, written into the very fabric of life itself. Mara smiled as she made her way back to the station. The Dracoth had never been monsters. They had simply been mothers, doing what mothers across the galaxy had always done, fighting with fearsome determination to keep their children safe. And in that most basic truth, humanity and the Dracoth had found common ground.